see it.
Well, it seems to be about that time again. Time for the original Victoria Hall Show, your one-stop shop for throwback music, pop culture, counterculture, and whatever else gives us some vibes. I am your hostess with the mostest, Victoria. So lend us your ears while putting on your makeup, while you cook, or even while you garden. You won't be disappointed. Today, we will be talking about a few songs from Led Zeppelin 4, released in 1971. A follow-up to their not-so-well-received third album, Led Zeppelin 3, in 1970. What makes this album so different from the rest? Well, for me, it's mostly the fact that the band became hermits through the writing and creating of the album. The band decided to hide away for about 3 months between December 1970 and February 1971 at a small workhouse called Headley Grange in Headley, Hampshire, England. Between the 60s and 70s, Headley Grange was used for recording by bands such as Fleetwood Mac, Genesis, and of course, Led Zeppelin. It was a place of discipline because it really was in the middle of nowhere. There were no distractions for the band. Jimmy Page is quoted as saying, "He didn't have anything like a snooker table or anything like that. No recreational pursuits at all. It really was good for discipline and getting on with the job." I suppose that's why a lot of these songs came at Headley Grange. For instance, Going to California and Battle of Evermore came out. To find an oasis like that, to just get into a creative zone, really shows the importance of disconnecting from stimulus and society on art. When you listen to this album, you can already hear the range of styles, the way Robert Plant pushes his voice to its extreme, and just the sounds they create is a testament to the benefits of running away to the middle of nowhere for a few months. With not much to be done in the town, all their energy and inspiration went straight into the music. Not only did the experimentation occur with music itself, but also with the representation of the physical album. So, technically, the fourth album doesn't have a name and is represented by 4 symbols on the inner part of the vinyl. Each of those symbols is representative of one of the band members. You won't find many descriptive aspects to the fourth album, besides the titles of the tracks and other key information such as the record company and those 4 symbols. Led Zeppelin really stripped down and experimented with the boundaries of what they knew in terms of marketing their albums as well as just their relationship with their fans. Led Zeppelin 4 contains classics such as Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, 4 Sticks, Misty Mountain Hop, and my personal favorite, Going to California. Led Zeppelin made sure to be in control of the production as well as the presentation of their album. They seemed to have a lot of trouble with their record company, who warned them at almost every move they made. It was Jimmy Page's decision to not have a title, but have just the 4 symbols which represented each member of the band. Being the rock and rollers they were, they refused to hand over the master tapes until they had what they wanted from the record company. Even their press agent was against the fact that the album would have 0 written information, especially after being absent from touring and interviews for over a year. Basically, they were considered to be committing professional suicide, but according to Page, we just happened to have a lot of faith in what we were doing. The band wanted to create something that was truly theirs and wasn't just a point of reference for the critics to compare their previous work, which when coming back from a quote-unquote flop of a third album, the tension would be high. So to sort of mitigate that critical space by creating something that sort of comes out on its own timeline is a great statement from the band. I heard from a YouTube channel called Alpha Media that the benefits of having critics is that they push artists to create better work. From how the band reacted to the criticism of their third album, I really do see that statement as truth. It's really important that critics are honest about a band's work. Maybe we still would have gotten a fourth album of this caliber, but being pushed to prove people wrong through hard work and belief in self is a great way of learning to experiment and eventually innovate. Now, on to my favorite tracks from the album. When I first heard the song Going to California, I was really taken to a world of trees, tall grass, nymphs, and picnics in magical forests. The acoustic picking in the introduction just sets the tone of this far-off magical land where Plant will be telling us another lyrical story. The soothing introduction tells a tale of hope and a journey towards a dream that are battled by doubt and this urgency in both Plant's singing and echoing of the music. It really shows the contrast. It feels like this track was heavily influenced by Headley Grange's landscape and proximity to forests and greenery. On this track, they were really able to just get into the zone, experiment, and record that experimentation. Like with most songs I'll be speaking about, it feels like there's a battle between the music and Plant's voice, or Plant as two characters sometimes. The story is almost intangible if you don't listen to the lyrics from the very beginning. The lyrics being, "Spent my days with a woman unkind, smoked my stuff and drank all my wine, made up my mind to make a new start, going to California with an aching in my heart. Someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in her hair." This is it. Plant's character lays it all out for us. This is the hopeful aspect which will later be followed by lyrics such as, "Seems the wrath of the gods got a punch on the nose and it started to flow. I think I might be sinking." There is this fight between the reality of possibly finding an awful woman again versus the idealized version of a woman that doesn't actually exist. Although the song is inspired by Joni Mitchell and written by Paige about Californian earthquakes and trying to find the perfect woman, I feel like the music speaks more of their time at Headley Grange. Plant's voice creates a character almost battling out with himself, trying to keep hopeful, but becoming unhinged when reality hits. Almost like a storm of depression that destroys your goal in trying to escape the possibilities that are most likely to happen. Another track that I would like to talk about is Four Sticks. The powerful guitar seems to be clashing with Plant's voice. John Bonham is playing a drum pattern that runs throughout the song with 4 drumsticks. I know, I would probably not be able to handle the coordination and rhythm required for 2. Of course, it took multiple takes, and because of the difficulty of this song, it was only played once live by Led Zeppelin. Robert Plant seems to constantly be running away from women in his songs. The deep guitar and drums are just doing their thing while Plant wails in the background. Him against this aggressive river of bass and drums, repeating, "Baby, how do you feel?" The song transforms to speak to him and goes back to something he can communicate with. I just feel like I have to move when I hear the song. Not that it looks great, but there's this deep groove with the drums that just gets me going. The last song I'll be speaking about is When the Levee Breaks. Originally recorded by Memphis Minnie and Kansas Joe McCoy in 1929, this blues song recounts the actual occurrence of a flood caused by the Great Mississippi River Flood of 1927. The flood killed hundreds and displaced thousands as it decimated over 26,000 square miles of the Mississippi Delta. The flood affected many artists at the time, causing there to be quite a few songs that dealt with the tragedy of this flood. Led Zeppelin credits this song to Memphis Minnie as the original artist, which I think is great because of the well-documented history of white artists being inspired by black artists without credit. They acknowledged that they were inspired and felt drawn to create this song in their own style. When Led Zeppelin decided to cover the song, they wanted to move from the original blues style and personalize the song with their version of hard rock. Jimmy Page created a new guitar riff while Plant kept the original lyrics, which are what identifies the song. Yet even the style of singing is different from the original. Plant creates a more dramatic effect, sort of sings matter-of-factly about a warning to those who have already been lost. Even the way that Kansas Joe sings about the struggle recounts the story and a sort of coming to terms with the fact that there is nowhere to go. Even the blues song somehow seems more upbeat compared to the Led Zeppelin version. There is still this sort of resigned sadness and powerlessness from the original version. There is this spooky southern darkness with the harmonica, almost like the souls of the dead are speaking through Led Zeppelin's opening. The complexity of the song is very different to the stripped-down original version. I kind of have to try and not necessarily think about the original meaning of the song when hearing Led Zeppelin's version, just because of how complex the musicianship is. The two versions definitely hit in individual ways. The lived experience of Memphis Minnie and Kansas Joe McCoy versus Led Zeppelin's hearing the history and interpretation of it seem to lead to a very distinct style for each version. Well, what can I say? Led Zeppelin 4 is an album that hits me right in the chest with the range and experimentation put into their tracks. Each song tells an important story, whether it's with its lyrics or instrumentation. The tracks have their place on the album, and none overshadows the other. Of course, Stairway to Heaven has become the song the band is most known for, but even hearing that epic song from the album, you really can't say that it's the only track you could really get into. I will stick by this thought process until I am able to move into a cottage myself, but being away from influence, people, and expectations really allows for works of art to be formed. Without judgment and without care, Led Zeppelin poured their hearts into this album, and thankfully, we are able to share in the epic story that is the creation of this album. For me, it's important to take deep dives and really understand what makes the music that I choose to listen to so great. When I hear a song that transports me to another world, I know that there is something in the story of that song that will take me on a journey. Figuring out the history, influence, and also any messages in the track are part of the fun of exploring new artists and genres. What do you see when you listen to music? What influences your own music taste? These are the thoughts that I hope this show will eventually get you to think about. For me, music is such a multifaceted world, and I truly believe that we can all get more out of our musical experiences. My goal with the original Victoria Hall show is to create looks that are reminiscent of the topic that I am discussing, to add a visual element, and to also share what it is that I am seeing when I listen to music. The look created in this video is of course inspired by Led Zeppelin 4. As stated before, the song Going to California gives me Nymph and Magical Forest vibes. Songs like Four Sticks and Misty Mountain Hop give this dark and sultry dimension, which kept me from going full peach and brown tones. With blue and green eyeshadow, as well as some super peachy blush and copper eyeshadow, I feel like I should be running around Rivendell in Lord of the Rings.
Well, thanks for sticking around for the original Victoria Hall show. I hope you enjoyed some of my insights into Led Zeppelin 4, as well as some of my personal interpretations. Make sure to subscribe and follow along for more deep dives into albums, pop culture, and whatever else interests me. See you next week for the next episode. Peace out.